Good evening. Welcome to the November 18th meeting of the Bexar County Board of Education. Good to see you all here. Hope you're having a good start to your week. At this time, it is 6 p.m. and the meeting is now called to order. Could I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Anyone?
So moved.
Ms. Lord?
Yes.
Second, Ms. Kelly? All right, all in favor? Thank you. All right. Moving on to our superintendent's report, Dr. LaDuff.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Board members, I just want to start by thanking you all who were able to attend any of our Veterans Day events. Those were wonderful events. Thank you to all of our schools for putting those on for our veterans. I had a chance to attend a couple of them and chat some with our veterans, and they are very proud, and I am very thankful for them and their service. And I'll be thinking about that as we approach Thanksgiving next week. I do have one action item for you tonight. That is the 2026 board meeting dates. Just want to point out the July 7th, 2026. That'll be right on the tail end of the 4th of July Saturday, but we have confirmed that the GHSA Dead Week is the week prior. So the Saturday before the 7th, which is a Tuesday, will be the 4th of July, and then we'll be back on a normal schedule that week. So just present that to you for your consideration for the December 2nd Board of Education meeting. That concludes my report.
Move that to consent. Okay. All right, moving on with our report from Dr. Thompson, Deputy Superintendent.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to be with you tonight. We have for the board 5 items of information and 1 action item this evening. For our first action item, we do have the October communications report posted for the board's review. I will thank both Ms. Vallis and Jackson Hensley, who stepped in to finish this out after Ms. Vallis had her accident. We certainly are hoping she's back soon, but that is posted for your review. For the second item of information, I'm going to ask Ms. Persinger to come up to help me with this particular item. We usually give you the enrollment count every 20 days. But we do want to spend a little more time tonight on the 60-day count. We'll explain why in a second.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Thompson. So this is, like I've presented before, we do a count every 20th school day. So this was our digital learning day, Monday of last week, the day before Election Day. And you can see that we're still having some interesting trends that are following up, and that's what we're going to dig into a little more now.
If you will recall back earlier in the year, we reported that for the first time in nearly 20 some odd years, with the single exception of the COVID year, we actually saw an enrollment decline. And we spent some time with the board on some of the reasons for why we thought that was. Like a lot of things, it involves a lot of different factors as to why we were seeing that decline. And that's obviously happening at a time where the county is also building a lot of housing, adding a lot of students. So one of the things we wanted to point out, and we kind of knew this at the time, but until we got the official data, we really didn't want to discuss it publicly, was we are not alone in that particular trend. Megan, if you'll pull up the second item, the enrollment decline we saw is actually part of a much broader statewide trend in enrollment. And I will say, having dealt with these kind of numbers for over decades, this is a very unusual pattern. So what you're looking at is every single school district in our RESA plus Hall and Gwinnett. And what you can see is most districts in our region were adding quite a few students for the periods from 2022 to 2025. Barrow was adding about 300 to 350 students a year. Jackson was adding nearly 700 per year. But what has actually happened is, for this past cycle, going from school year 25 to 26, 89% of districts in the entire state of Georgia saw enrollment decline. And you can see in our area, and if you look at the last column, which is the percent change, the amount that we were down on the FTE count date was actually considerably less than most of our neighbors. We lost about 1.1% of our student enrollment, and you can see Morgan County 3.5, Oconee 2.3, Oglethorpe 2, Hall County 2.18. Pretty significant enrollment declines across the entire state. And so we don't appear to be unusual in the regard of what we talk to you guys about. We don't yet know the entire reasons why. We've requested some data from the state that we can start digging into that, and it's not just us doing that. Legislature is very interested in this trend. There's a lot of people exploring, breaking down data on this. I suspect the reasons will be somewhat similar to what we impact for you guys, but there's a lot still to go through. But we just wanted, since we had reported an enrollment decline, and since that factors into a lot of things we do, including long-term growth projections, capital outlay, all of those things. We wanted you guys to see the context, now that we have the full state official data, that it is not a Barrow County trend. If anything, our trend was probably mitigated by a lot of the construction. In this case, what you're seeing is a statewide decline in K-12 enrollment. What that means for years to come, we don't know yet, but we thought that context might be helpful, and I'll be happy to answer any questions about that. All right. If there's no questions on that, I'm going to move on to information item 3. A couple months ago, Ms. Mitchum got up and talked through our Georgia Milestones results, and tonight we have Ms. Persinger to talk a little bit about the College and Career Readiness Performance Index.
Thank you. So yes, our College and Career Readiness Performance Index, or CCRPI, is the state's tool for accountability. Now remember, that is a federally required measure, but Georgia gets to write their own measure to fit those criteria that are required. So in the state of Georgia, we have 5 main components, 4 for middle and elementary school, and then that 5th includes graduation at our high school levels. And then all of those components are scored on a 0 to 100 scale. And like I said, that meets the federal requirements of the Every Student Succeeds Act at the federal level. So the first measure that our CCRPI measures is content mastery. Megan, if you'll move to the next, there we go. So this is mainly based, or actually completely based, on assessment scores. So it doesn't include every student feeding into this measure because we only test in certain grades and certain subjects. So like in high school, it's 4 single courses that take those assessments. And then it also includes so it's not just milestones, it's the Georgia alternate assessment that about 1% of our students take as well. And those scores feed in, and we have to have a minimum of 95% of our students in those areas test, as well as in every student group. So not just our overall population, but every student group, every ethnicity, our special needs learners, our English learners, our economically disadvantaged students, every group has to have a minimum of 95% or it impacts the calculations. So the next slide shows you how we performed. I do want to point out that that disclaimer at the bottom, that is something that DOE put on every slide for every report for our district level and for every Appalachia report. So that is not just something I put on there. I just wanted you to know that DOE has included those on all of their public reports that go out. So you can see at each grade band how we've performed. In elementary and middle, you can see that change from last year's score to this year's score, both at positive, and then as I'm sure we know we're impacted by scores. Remember that in Appalachia, those EOC's milestone tests didn't count as much as they had in the past to give those students a little bit of relief with all that they were dealing with. So I'm sure that probably had some impact on how well students performed as well. The second measure is progress, and this is looking at individual student progress, so it compares students to their academically similar peers from year to year. They have to have at least 2 test scores, so they compare like possibly their 3rd grade score to their 4th grade score, and how compared to others that scored similar to them one year, they perform the next year. And then it also includes those alternate assessment learners and our English learners. They take a separate assessment, and how much growth they have made in their cognitive or learn English language proficiency, and have they moved groups. So the next slide shows us how we performed in those areas. Very excited to see such growth at the elementary and middle levels, and performing above the state there in all 3 levels. Next comes closing gaps. This one is really hard to understand and even to defend. It just is a strange measure, but it is trying to get at looking at those individual student groups. So we're not just looking at the overall population, we're looking specifically at every student group, every ethnicity group, the special needs learners, the economically disadvantaged learners, our English learners, and seeing how they perform towards a target. The state sets a target. There are calculations that it's not just something they make up. They do try to make a 3% gain every year towards hitting a 90% mark, and it allows them to not make everybody hit the same mark. Everybody has a starting point, and you're trying to make a 3% gain from that. So in the next slide, you can see how our Bexar County schools performed. There is no comparison to last year. Last year, you may recall that there were no math scores that fed into the CCRPI because of delayed reporting, because we had new math standards. So we can't compare these from one year to the next. It's not the similar data now that we have math included. The same thing will happen as we introduce new language arts standards into the assessments as well, moving forward. And then the final measure that impacts all levels is readiness, and this one does include all students. At some areas, it's looking at how they perform in reading on those milestones tests. So are they reading at grade level or not? But then student attendance obviously involves every student in the calculation. And then there's some beyond the core courses, which if you think about it, is beyond those 4 tested courses. Like, are we offering other opportunities for students, like our music classes in elementary school and our art classes? And then as you move on, it's the AP courses in high school, or some of their pathway completion, or even feeds into SAT scores, ACT scores, as a way to boost that level. So then on the next slide, you can see not only how we performed and how the state performed, but how that compared to last year's scores. And then the final measure I won't spend a ton of time on, because I know Ms. Mitchum already spoke to you about graduation rate, but just know that that is a piece that feeds into our high school scores. So it includes the 4-year graduation rate, then the 5-year graduation rate, which would technically have been for the 24 graduates, because then they got an extra year to feed into that measure, and then an overall rate. So on the next slide, you can see those scores that we're proud of our improvements in all areas and how well we compare to the state. So these are not just numbers that I show to you. You know, this is actually the part of my job I really like, is digging into these numbers. But we actually met with principals recently. We'll meet with assistant principals very soon to talk about how this feeds into your school improvement plan. How does this work with the goals you already have set for your school? We also have worked with grade level bands. How are elementary schools letting them talk to each other about how we did on one area versus how you did, and what can we learn from that, as well as cluster groups. So between each high school cluster and those elementary schools that feed to middle schools that feed to high schools. So they're having those conversations now with this new data that was just recently released. So we know that we will see great gains even moving forward. So are there any questions?
I do have a question. On those tests, especially in the, two different subgroups, I know that one particular situation with the elementary school student, I mean, I'm sure there's more. An administrator had told me that they know for a fact that one of the students, after the shooting, just had an issue. It could not finish it, didn't know all the safety things we had in place, even after walking them around the school, showing them the things that we had in place. They still had to leave and could not finish the test. How does the state look at that? Or do they get a makeup, or how does that work?
So there are opportunities for them to come back and finish. If they just cannot, then Ms. Mitchum works with the Department of Education to kind of disqualify that test score, so it doesn't hurt the child in any way, but it also doesn't feed into our measure. We did not have any case this year where we were below that 95% participation. That student would have just been considered a non-participant.
Okay, and the second subgroup is in the special needs kids. I know there's some of them that they just cannot focus for that long, and some of them have to leave if they have a meltdown or whatever in the middle of the day or whatever. If that happens, how do they handle that?
So many of those students have what we call accommodations that are in place, and there are things that they're also using in their classroom every day. So if that's true for this test, it's probably true for the classroom assessments they're taking all year long. And so they have written into their individual education plan, possibly a frequent breaks or some ability to help them focus better so that they can perform at their best.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, two questions. Is the overall CCRPI report somewhere where you can see it?
So, funny question.
Very good question.
So there are public reports. You literally can Google CCRPI, and it
Okay.
will bring up these reports. The Department of Education does not calculate overall scores anymore. That dates back to COVID, where the state superintendent wanted to use, his words were compassion over compliance. And his point was these are not really equal measures to compare school to school. So, and that's a lot of times what was happening with this overall score. So Department of Education no longer calculates those. Now, the legislature put in effect 2 years ago that the Governor's Office of Student Achievement does calculate those scores. They have not done that yet. We expect those probably in January.
Right, well, because I didn't know how we could compare the high schools levels, but just
Right.
compare each and see where the drop is. And then I didn't know about the closing the gap for the high school, why it was so low, if there's any ideas of why that was so low.
So again, I think that has a lot to do with those test scores. Remember, those are the only students that we give milestones to in December, which was very recent, that things were still very different for us last
Right.
September. Most of our elementary, or all of our elementary and middle school students don't test until May, but because of our block scheduling, so I think a lot of those test scores impacted all our overall scores.
And bear in mind, last year, our high school students, the first semester, missed 17 academic days of
Yeah.
instruction, and they didn't have the incentive of the 10% counting towards the grade, which is a blessing,
Yep.
but it reduces some of the incentives. So we did see a score decline that is, I don't want to say artificial, but it was definitely impacted by those things. So it's not, we asked for the State Department to just waive accountability for Appalachia because that is a federal requirement. They were not able to do that. They did try.
Right.
So the verbiage that is on there was put there specifically as a sort of compromise on that, but a lot of the impact was related to September 4th at the high school level.
Right, so do we have numbers where their numbers are taken out?
The state was not able to take their numbers out, so we are moving forward.
Because they measure everything, but they won't tell us what schools or what? I mean,
That will come out in January, where we
Okay.
can compare high schools to each other, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Good question.
So that was my follow-up question. So there will be availability for everybody to see the breakdown comparison for every school in our county? And I'm not talking about an overall grade. I'm
Right.
talking about the specifics of the CCRPI result. And the follow-up to that wasn't the CCRPI part of the Promise Scholarship stuff that we just walked through?
It is, the overall scores, that is also something that is calculated by GOSA, Governor's Office of Student Achievement. So they will calculate those overall scores, and then they will rank and look for the bottom 25% to release that Promise Scholarship list moving forward.
That is also an average of 2 years, not just the
Well,
most recent CCRPI. So Promise Scholarship is based on the scores we just showed you for each school, but also their scores the prior year as well.
Thank you.
And just for the sake of clarity, can we, would you mind reminding me, post-COVID data, when that started being collected again? Because I know there was a gap in COVID where the test wasn't really happening, but then you all of a sudden have a new 2-year rolling average, and then you have students who are not reading on the same reading level because, again, they were trying to learn kindergarten online or in other adverse circumstances. So just kind of, would you mind?
No, so that's a great question. So in '20, we didn't give any tests in the spring of '20, so there were no CCRPI scores for that year. And then the next year, we asked for the state of Georgia asked for a waiver as well because there were so many districts across the state that were either all virtual or some hybrid, some were in person. They just didn't feel like that was an equal measure. So then they started again the next year, starting in '23, but they didn't have all the measures because you had, like for progress, you have to have 2 test scores. So we got some partial data. This is the second year that we've had full data again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Persinger. All right, for the next item, I'm going to ask Mr. Hensley to come up and give you guys a preview of a couple of pieces of communication tools, one of which will be very, very public, that we're going to be rolling out in the near future. So, Jackson.
Good evening, Board. Dr. LaDuff. The Communications Department wanted to give everybody a quick update about some new communications tools coming out next year and a new website coming out next year. So in October, we sent out our first messages to families from Parent Square. These were aligned with the launch of our new app that families can download. Since that time, we have sent messages to all families in our district, to families of specific schools, grades, as well as targeted messages to our special education families for things specific to them. We hosted 2 training sessions for school administrators in October and November, and they will begin transitioning from Remind to Parent Square in January. We will be hosting training sessions for teachers starting in January with a goal of having all teachers trained on the platform by May. Going into the 2026 school year, we will no longer be using Remind, so Parent Square will be our only communications tool that we're using for families. Parent Square will also be hosting the next version of our websites. A preliminary design was finished earlier this semester, and we are currently in the progress of migrating content from the old site to the new site. That process is slated to be finished in December, with the website launching in January. We will begin promoting the website to families and staff, and like I said, a launch is scheduled for January. I wanted to highlight a few posts that we've made through Parent Square so far, and point out a couple of key metrics we can see from them. This post was sent to families, all families in the district last week, to talk about our strategic planning survey, and you will see that it was sent to 19,112 people. We typically send messages through email, text, and now through our app. And on the right, you can see the breakdowns of how families were receiving those messages. On the next slide, we will see a message that was sent to all 5th grade families in the district to promote some information sessions happening at AIM ahead of enrollment starting in January. And what I wanted to point out was some of the two-way communication we can get through this new platform. So we sent this message to families. And in the past, it's just one way we're telling families they don't really have a way to give us feedback. But now we were able to set up an RSVP functionality. So we sent out the message, we had a calendar invite that they could add to their calendars, and families could also RSVP and tell us that they were planning to come. This screenshot shows 76 RSVPs, but the most accurate number as of today is 129 families that have signed up to come to those sessions. Lastly, I wanted to give you a sneak peek of our new website. We are currently in the content migration phase, so all of the content from our old website is coming over to the new website. We have some new content planned for the new website. And we are planning to finish that in December, roll it out to schools in January. But Megan, if we could click on that link in the middle and visit the new website. All right, well, that's the home page. And the rest is to be determined. And I will be happy to answer any questions you may have. Oh, is it working? It's working, look at that. So this is our new website. You see at the top we have our menus. As we scroll, it's just important information that families may need to find, that we've noticed families are going to the most on our current website. It's already full of content, and we're adding more literally every day. And you can see just some of the cool functionality that it offers us. So, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
So one thing I have a question on is with this new app and new software, obviously there's a lot of great new availabilities for us to communicate, all communicating using the same app and stuff between all the schools. Is there going to be a way, one of the concerns that I always hear is communication getting to or from transportation at times? Like that's just an overall, the phone number was hard to find for a while and it's been updated. And I just didn't know if through that app, a parent was able to communicate directly to the transportation office.
Right, they can. So we have that two-way functionality set up. We can communicate to families on any given bus route, and families can also communicate directly to us.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Follow-up question to that, will this now replace the bus app that Here Comes Your Bus?
Here comes the bus.
No, so those are a little bit different.
Separate.
Here Comes the
You're
Bus.
still going to track your child getting picked up and
Right,
dropped off?
right,
And your bus routes, okay.
right.
I was almost excited because I was like, oh, new feature, but it's still good. It's still good.
Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mr. Hensley. Appreciate it. For our last information item, you may have seen a lot of media coverage that in the last legislative session, the legislature took some pretty decisive action to restrict the usage of cell phones in the classroom. And so Dr. Bowen is going to get up and talk a little bit about what our approach for that is going to be in the next school year.
Good evening. This past May, Governor Kemp signed the Distraction-Free Education Act, that is House Bill 340. It states the beginning in the 26-27 school year, students in kindergarten through 8th grade will be prohibited from bell-to-bell access to personal electronic devices. In accordance with the requirements of HB 340, I submit to you as an information item Board Regulation JCDR3. It goes under our student conduct section. The key terms in this law that we have to define, or that have been defined for us, are bell to bell, which includes the beginning of the day to the end of the day. It's not within periods, it's the entire day. From the start of the day to the end of the day. That includes all instructional time, transitions, lunch, recess, restroom trips, etc. Another key term is access. And access is defined in the law as viewing, holding, wearing, or otherwise using a device for the purpose of communication, internet access, gaming, recording, listening to music, or any other function commonly associated with personal electronic devices. Finally, the law defines personal electronic devices as those capable of transmitting, receiving, or accessing communication, data, or media. This includes, but is not limited to, smartphones, smartwatches, tablets, e-readers, and other devices with functionalities such as wireless communication, internet access, messaging, video recording, gaming, social media access, or data transmission. Those are the definitions of the key terms in the law. Students found to be in violation of the Distraction-Free Education Act procedures shall be subject to progressive, and that doesn't mean progressive as in a new way of thinking about consequences. It means progressive as in each consequence is worse than the one before. In accordance with the Barrow County Schools Code of Conduct, any appropriate changes needed in our Code of Conduct will be completed during our annual review this spring. It will be effective for the 26-27 school year. Are there any questions?
I'm a little curious how they're going to deal with parents that are trying to get messages to their children all throughout the day.
Part of our best practice was to define the communication tools and how to actually do that. We expect there'll be a couple of things that'll be done on their own, which will be using email or because they will still be using their laptop devices as a possibility. But I think what we'll do is we'll just have to have procedures, and they'll be different in elementary than middle, which is why we're going to flesh those out individually in the Code of Conduct. But from a procedural standpoint, yes, our front offices are going to be a little more busy to start with anyway. But I also think it may get us back to a time in which we made our plans the night before or possibly the morning of instead of making the plans on the fly in the middle of the day. Certainly emergency communication will absolutely be possible. Every other communication, we may need to streamline that a little better for our families and for us. But yes, there'll be ways to communicate with our children. They just won't be able to text them in the middle of class. Any other comments or questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bowen. For our lone action item of the evening, I'm going to ask Dr. Lowe to come up and talk through a proposed policy revision we want to put on the table.
Great. Good evening. Tonight, I'm presenting a proposed revision to Board Policy JBC1, homeless students. This update aligns our policy with the most recent federal definition of homelessness under the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. A similar adjustment was previously made to policy JBC on school admissions. I believe it was last month when a discrepancy was identified during its review period, and tonight was the first opportunity to propose the revision on JBC1. This revision should be the final board policy impacted by this change. The superintendent recommends placing the revision to policy JBC1 homeless students on the table for public review and comment.
All right. Consent?
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lowe. That concludes our report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. All right, moving on to our Chief Academic Officer report. Dr. Brown.
Good evening. The Chief Academic Officer Board of Education report contains one item of information and 4 action items for the December 2nd, 2025 Board of Education meeting. Our first item of information is an update on Barrow County elementary schools that are federally identified for support. So Amy Wadley, our Director of Special Education, and Beth Mitchum, District Testing and Data Coordinator, are going to join me to help me to present this information. And I'll go ahead and start. Under the federal Every Student Succeeds Act, which you've already heard about once today when we discussed our CCRPI, as a part of that, states are required to identify schools in need of additional support. These identifications in Georgia are TSI, Targeted Support and Improvement, which Winder Elementary is identified in this area. ATSI, Additional Targeted Support and Improvement, Auburn Elementary School is identified in this area. And CSI, Comprehensive Support and Improvement, that is the highest level of support, and we do not have any Barrow County schools identified as CSI schools. Our staff at Auburn Elementary and Winder Elementary have been working incredibly hard to key in on areas of improvement and engage deeply in the work of ensuring progress for our students. We're excited to share some of that progress with you. But first, I did want to spend a little bit of time reminding you about how TSI and ATSI schools are identified. So first, in looking at the process of identifying schools for TSI, or Targeted Support and Improvement. At the elementary level, that's what we're going to focus on today. A staged approach for identification is used for Title I schools. So with the first stage reviewing the content mastery, student groups that are performing within the lowest 20% of schools in content mastery are identified first in that first stage. Then, progress in closing the gaps are reviewed for these schools. If student groups perform within the lowest 25% of schools within the progress component, or the lowest 10% of schools within the closing the gaps component, then the readiness component is reviewed. If student groups perform within the targeted number, which is 5% of all schools within readiness, then the school is identified for TSI support. So TSI schools are identified annually, and they may exit once no student groups meet that entrance criteria. So Winder Elementary School was identified in January of 2025, and that was based on the spring 2024 milestone scores. And they were specifically identified as a result of the performance of the students with disabilities subgroup, okay? So now, with our ATSI, so among the schools meeting and you can, sorry, Megan, you can skip to the next, I kind of combined those, there we go. Among the schools meeting the TSI criteria, then schools are identified for ATSI support if they have one or more identified subgroups whose component scores are at or below the highest component scores of the CSI lowest performing schools. So it's a little bit complicated. It is also based on that stage approach. Another difference with the ATSI schools is these schools are identified every 3 years, and you may only exit after 3 years. So if after 3 years they do not meet the entrance criteria and demonstrate an improvement in content mastery, ELA achievement, mathematics achievement, science achievement for all identified subgroups of the year of identification to that current year. So Auburn Elementary was identified in January of 2024 as an ATSI school, and that was also based on their students with disability subgroup. Okay. So next, Miss Amy Wadley is going to come up, and she's going to share a little bit about our district plan of support, and then we'll also go into some new data for you all.
Good evening to the board, Dr. LaDuff. Thank you for having me. So the district plan of support outlines what the district staff have committed to doing to help improve student achievement in our federally identified schools. And the crux of this plan is the goal that's driving it, which is to decrease the number of students with disabilities who are scoring in the level 1 ELA and math milestones. The centerpiece of our plan is supporting implementation of specially designed instruction to increase student achievement. Reduction in level 1 scores at both schools, so 10% in ELA and 15% in math at both Auburn and Winder. That's our goal. It's ambitious, but we believe it is achievable through specially designed instruction. So specially designed instruction, you'll hear it called SDI, and what that means is that we're providing individualized, tailored instruction to meet the unique learning needs of our students with disabilities. So essentially, what is the special thing that we are doing to meet the needs of that particular unique student so that they can access the general curriculum? All right, next slide. So this slide outlines the important action steps from the district plan of support. So first of all, we're providing teachers with targeted professional learning as it relates to implementation of SDI effectively. We're also monitoring SDI implementation through what we call awareness walks, and we use an observational tool, and this is used to observe what's happening in the classroom on a bunch of different metrics, and then be able to give some useful feedback and support to teachers and design that targeted PL for them. We've also supplied materials and training for a multisensory reading intervention to help strengthen the foundational literacy skills of our students with disabilities. And then also we're supporting the consistent use of Waggle in the classroom so that teachers have a tool so they can progress monitor and better inform instruction. And Waggle is just a digital learning platform that's a companion program to HMH into reading and into math. So it is looking at both reading and math. Here we're showcasing key supports that are provided due to the ATSI and TSI process. So just a little bit more that we've added in throughout the plan to support our teachers. So first is unpacking the psychological professional learning with Dr. Allison Neely from UGA. And in this training, what she does is breaks down a psychological report to all the components and helps teachers really understand what this means and how it can inform an IEP and truly bring SDI to life, or that specially designed instruction. Also, what we're doing is providing IEP feedback, so the individualized education program that every student with a disability has. And we're doing this to help teachers write and develop effective IEPs that they can use to then also drive specially designed instruction. We're emphasizing high leverage practices in the classroom, so there's a lot of them, but a few highlights are scaffolding, explicit instruction, flexible grouping, student engagement. And then we're also supporting our teachers in learning more about assistive technology that is available to students. And it doesn't have to just be the high technology that we think about, like screen readers. It's also low technology that can really bring instruction to life for students. Highlighters, color overlays, slant boards, things like that. So we're making sure that they know what is available to them. Another big focus this year has been looking at teacher clarity and talking a lot about the importance of learning targets and success criteria being at the forefront of our lessons and ensuring that students understand what it is that they are learning today in this lesson and what success looks like, how they've achieved that. And then also with the money that we received from the DOE, we were able to use some of that to contract with a targeted support specialist who is helping with all of these different items of support that I've mentioned, but she's also available to provide one-to-one coaching and feedback to our students with disabilities. So that's been really wonderful.
Not surprisingly, I'm here with the numbers. So they asked me to bring some of the data that from our 2 schools that are federally identified. And what we're going to look at is overall reporting. Again, it is focused on students with disabilities, but again, if you attack that just as a silo and you forget about the rest of it, then we might have another problem on our hands. So just looking at what Auburn, this is their English language arts, so this is the milestones that they take, and we're looking at levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. Obviously, level 1, we want to decrease those numbers, and we want to increase the 3s and the 4s. So you can see down there, that bottom chart is the number of students scoring level 3 and above from the year they were identified in 22-23. And remember, that comes in the January following that test, and so you really only have 4 or 5 months until you test again, and then you have a full year. So you can see how much that number has increased from the time they were identified. And so the next slide looks at what Ms. Persinger was talking about, the at or above the reading level. And actually on the CCRPI website, it does break it down into those different categories of, are they at grade level plus, or above grade level. So you can look at that for every school as to where our students are spread out. But you can see the ones that are at or above, again, we're seeing an increase across the board at Auburn. So, and then math, same thing. Again, we're looking at level 1. So in order for those 3s and aboves to go up, our level 1s and hopefully 2s need to go down. So they are making some great progress with their student groups out there at Auburn. And so then we look at the same thing for Winder. And again, we just found out 4 months before we took the 24-25 test. So again, we weren't, obviously teachers are teaching and we're doing what we're supposed to, but then you throw this in the mix. And so, but if you look at that percentage change of level 3s and above, that's a very negligible change, 0.06. So again, we're kind of holding steady and hoping that all of these efforts poured into Winder, we'll see that go up even further. But the next 2, they're at or above reading level. So the next slide, again, just in 1 year, we're seeing positive progress. So that's what we expect to be seeing. And the number of students below grade level, we want that to go down. And then finally, their math scores. And again, in 1 year's time, and again, 4 months of understanding what TSI is, we've seen some increases. So we hope to continue to see those, especially in all of the student groups. Again, as Dr. Brown went over, exiting requires us to go back to those student groups that were identified, but we also want to make sure we're not losing focus on any other student groups while we're doing that.
So we asked our schools to let us know what they attribute a lot of their success to. What are these high-impact practices that are influencing change? So at Auburn Elementary, it boils down to data-driven instruction through the PLC, or Professional Learning Community process. They're prioritizing essential standards, and they're tailoring their whole group and small group instruction to student needs. They're also progress monitoring, and they're making adjustments for that when needed. And then SDI, as I mentioned, specially designed instruction, ensuring that that is in a variety of settings. And they're also engaging families to support learning across, outside of the classroom. And at Auburn, their teachers are collaborating, they're co-planning lessons, they're participating in grade level data meetings together. So a lot of teamwork is coming together to help move our students forward. And their next steps are going to be deepening their data conversations. It's going to be expanding SDI into more settings, and then also working on a sustainability plan so that they can take these initiatives and keep them going strong. All right, for Winder Elementary, what they said is that ODI, or outcome-driven instruction, is what's had a positive impact on their students and their learning. So they are also focusing on data-driven instruction and targeting their essential reading and math standards through that process. They identify the needs, they target the needs in whole group and small group instruction, and they're also progress monitoring, of course, and adjusting that instruction based on evidence. Their gen ed and special ed teachers are also co-planning lessons and differentiating their assessments together. They're collaborating in data meetings, and they're refining their instruction and ensuring appropriate scaffolds so that their students can access the general curriculum. Next steps for them are to strengthen co-teaching structures, broaden differentiation practices, and increase family communication as well about the key skills that their students are working on. So how do we sustain this momentum, and not only at Winder Elementary and Auburn Elementary, but how do we promote this throughout all of Barrow County schools? And first and foremost, that is keeping specially designed instruction at the heart of all that we do for our students with disabilities. So we do this through professional learning communities. We do it through coaching cycles, instructional walkthroughs. We make it a part of the conversation on a day-to-day basis, and it's layered on top of high-quality Tier 1 instruction. It's not in place of Tier 1 instruction. So that is what is going to be the magic ticket, okay? Also, what we need to do is really prioritize collaborative planning for our special education and general education teachers. So we want to make sure that we have it on the calendar so they can get together and talk about this data and work through SDI together. We also need to develop our teacher leaders. We have so many wonderful teacher leaders out there that I know would carry this torch and promote SDI in their buildings. Monitor student progress. That is something that we have to do every single day. And we need to respond accordingly in a meaningful way and in a timely fashion. And then lastly, we have to continue our targeted professional learning for teachers, our new teachers, our veteran teachers. But one thing that we wanted to emphasize today is that there really is no singular thing that we can do to turn achievement around for students with disabilities, or any student for that matter. I think Auburn and Winder could attest to it's complex. It's looking at all these different facets and needs and putting it together and working as a team, and the team looking at this every single day together. And so we have to be tenacious, we have to be intentional, and we need to always ask ourselves, what is the special thing that we are doing for this unique student today so that they can make progress on their IEP goals and access the general curriculum? And that's going to be the answer. So, thank you.
Do you have any questions?
I do. I wanted to know on the percentages, how did you come up with the 10% and the 15%? 15% difference in math that you wanted to decrease and the 10% on the other?
I could talk about it. Beth may want to jump in because we worked on it together. But essentially what we did is we looked at the students who were performing at level 1, and we looked to see how many students were right there on that edge that could be moved over to a level 2. And we calculated that out, and it was pretty much for both schools. It was at 10% and 15%. So we looked at that number of students, and we said, we can do this. This is very manageable.
Yeah. I will jump in on that because when we're talking about that student group of students with disabilities, and we're only talking about 3rd through 5th grade, so that becomes a small number of students, and then 10% of 60 kids is 6 kids that we need to move. So we broke it down into a student level of what can we do individually with each of these students to move them on, and it was, again, optimistic but manageable. So.
And the other question I have is when you were talking on the previous slides previously, and you were talking about walkthroughs, not the one that you just talked about a few minutes, not on this last one that's standing up here, but earlier. Can you describe what that would look like?
The awareness walks that I mentioned?
Awareness walks. What would
Sure.
that look like? What would
Yes. So Ideally, it's a monthly walk where you have a few people going into the school, and there's a rubric that goes through all the different items that you're looking for when it comes to specially designed instruction. So some of the things that we just spoke of. Are we seeing assistive technology being used? Are we seeing clear learning targets and success criteria? Is it very obvious that a student has their accommodations in place? So there's a variety of metrics on there, and it's essentially rated from a 1, 2, 3, and a 4, with 4 being this is exemplary, and a 1, there's needs to be improvement. We tally that up and we come up with an amount. But in doing that and walking across these different classrooms, what we're able to do is identify trends. And so we'll see great positive learning environment. There's so many wonderful things that we're seeing that teachers are doing great across the board. And there might be just little tiny tweaks that we think if we just can adjust that and make sure that teachers know what's available to them and support them, it's going to go from here to here very quickly. And that's how the professional learning was developed, was through these awareness walks. And then you go back again to see what growth that you've made. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. That's what I
Okay.
was hoping you would say, but.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Ms. Wiley, you stay up. Okay, now we'll move into our action items. And for our first action item, actually, Ms. Wadley is going to stay here, and she's going to talk to you about the comprehensive behavior change contract.
Okay. Hello again. All right. Find my place. Comprehensive behavior change. Great company. They provide essential support to our district special needs teams by addressing complex student-specific behavioral needs. Their services include conducting functional behavioral assessments, developing behavior intervention plans, and training staff to implement these plans effectively and consistently. Additionally, CBC works directly within our specialized programs, programs like our self-contained behavior support classrooms, our self-contained support for autism classrooms. We call that our Base G and Base A classes. And they work with these teachers to build capacity for supporting students with intensive behavioral needs. A lot of times teachers go to school to be a teacher, but they don't necessarily teach you this stuff, and you got to learn it hands-on. So we've built a trusted partnership with CBC over the past decade, and their continued support and expertise is key to equipping our staff to meet the diverse behavioral needs of our students effectively. The financial impact, we're proposing an increase which would raise the contract's maximum allowable amount to $120,000, and it would be fully funded through the IDEA grant. The superintendent recommends that the Barrow County School System authorize an increase to the existing contract with comprehensive behavior change, raising the amount from $74,999 to $120,000 to expand behavior analytic services and staff development in schools with an identified need. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Yes, ma'am. Can you explain to me why we go through a contract service instead of hiring an employee in this case?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So we do have one person on staff who's a board-certified behavior analyst, and she works with many of our programs. But CBC is composed of a group of 2 PhD-level BCBAs, master-level BCBA, and a couple of behavior specialists, and they were all special education teachers as well. And when you look at the scope of our programs, I believe we have about 40 in our school system with a lot of behavioral needs. And so having one person do that is, it's just not possible or effective. Having a contract company allows us to pull when needed. We don't have to spend all of that money, but it's there if we need it, but it allows us to have our person here, another person at this school, another person at that school, and they can collaborate together as well. And the other thing that is wonderful about this company is that because they work with many other districts, they have a scope of understanding and practice that, if we're here in Barrow, it's a little bit more limited. So having that outside expertise and experience is really beneficial as well.
Thank you for that, ma'am. And also that you said that the funding for this comes through IDEA.
Yes.
Which is not taxpayer money, it's federally funded dollars for special education students, just to clarify, correct?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Okay. Consent?
Okay. Our second action item is policy IHF 6, graduation requirements entering fall 2008-9 and thereafter. This policy was placed on the table for public review and comment at the October 14th Board of Education meeting. Just as a reminder, after further review, GSBA recommended rescinding policy IHF 6 and replacing this policy with policy IHF, graduation requirements, and moving the specific information within this policy IHF 6 to regulation within the newly proposed policy. We have had policy IHF 6 on the table. We have received no additional comments. So at this time, the superintendent recommends, or for the next board meeting, the superintendent recommends removing board policy IHF 6 from public comment and rescinding said policy at our next board meeting.
Consent? Thank you.
This leads to the third action item, policy IHF, graduation requirements. The superintendent recommends approving board policy IHF, which has been on the table for public review and comment for the requisite time frame, and we have received no public comments regarding this policy.
Consent.
The fourth action item is the purchasing of IXL for several of our schools as an additional support for students. IXL is a personalized learning platform that uses adaptive practice and real-time analytics to support student growth. The platform reinforces skills through interactive questions. It tracks progress with detailed reports for educators. So we actually have 4 schools that are wanting to add this as a resource for our students: Russell Middle School, Yargo Elementary School, Statham Elementary, and Winder Elementary. We already have quite a few schools within the district that utilize this program. So the financial impact for these additions would be $26,103.50 for these 4 schools, which would be paid out of their schools' consolidated funds. But the total financial impact for the district this fiscal year would be $81,754.25, which is why we're wanting it to bring it to you. The superintendent recommends authorizing the purchase of IXL for Russell Middle, Yargo Elementary, Statham Elementary, and Winder Elementary.
Consent. All right.
And this concludes my report, unless I have questions.
Can we go back to the IHF? I don't know if that was the right document. Is that the right document?
That is not the correct document. It should be, yes, that is not correct. So if we could get that one switched out.
If you hit the one underneath it.
Yeah, I mean, is it the IHF R1? I don't know, because there was another document under that, but.
The IHF R1 is the regulation, so it should just be policy IHF graduation requirements.
Okay.
I apologize. There it is. So that would be the proposed, the new policy. And then remember that the recommendation was that the items from IHF 6 would be moved to the regulation for this policy.
Okay, I just
Okay.
didn't think it was the right.
Yes, no, thank you.
Dr. Brown, I actually do have a question. My apologies for the IXL
Yes, ma'am.
curriculum. Do we currently have a similar curriculum?
I would say that the most similar that we have would be Waggle. That program is for math and ELA. Like Winder, for example, where they're looking to add it is in science. And then we do not have a program similar at the middle school, so several of our middle and high schools use it. Yargo and Statham wanted to add it just as an additional support. The way that the questions are asked are a little bit different. The data that it provides, it syncs with MAP. So it's a little bit different, but it's I would say the most similar would be Waggle to what we have.
Okay, so there's no opportunity for redundancy or sunsetting of any other platforms?
I think at this time with Waggle, we would not sunset that program, but that's something that we have purchased a few years ago we've paid for that for kind of an extended period of time.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. All right, moving on with Dr. Kurtz.
Hi there. Thank you for sharing your time and wisdom with us this evening, as always. We're excited to give you a little bit of an update about benefits, where they currently stand and where we're headed next, and then we'll follow that information item up with one single action item for this evening. We just closed our open enrollments period and had a little under 60% of our staff fully go through the process, which would be required if you're going to make different benefits elections. That's a pretty low number, and that number's pretty low because we didn't have a big campaign this year, as the benefits there were no significant changes to either health care or our ancillary benefits. But we are looking to make some changes for next year, particularly to our ancillary benefits. Our health care stayed the same with state health, other than the cost to employees went up by approximately $80 per month, or around $1,000 per year, depending on the plan they selected. But the actual coverage did not have any changes. The ancillary benefits are things like our dental insurance, our life insurance, voluntary life insurance, term, whole life, short-term disability, long-term disability, and those types of things. And we are not looking to make a change this year because we are going to be bidding that out shortly and trying to see what we want to do for next year, and trying to always offer our staff the best supports we can. To assist with folks making questions, asking questions, we used a benefits broker this year, and our benefits broker answered around 1,064 or so questions, and had a little under 200 conversations with folks to help them make decisions. The bulk of those were around health care and retirement. But we are looking to, because we haven't found where we have bid that out in the last greater than a decade, where we've had a competitive proposal process, we're looking to put out a competitive proposal process for a new benefits broker, which could include our old benefits broker, and Ms. McNally is going to tell a little bit more about where we are with that process.
Sure. So in an effort to continue to provide our staff with the highest quality benefit services and support, we posted a request for proposals for our benefits brokerage services. And like Dr. Kurtz said, we've not been through this process in over a decade. So in order to identify potential cost savings, to evaluate our plan designs, and also to potentially better meet the needs of all of our staff, we decided that it was time to do so. So our solicitation closed yesterday. We received 9 different proposals. Moving forward, a committee of Bexar County School System employees will review the proposals to determine which one provides our staff with the best services with the most competitive pricing. And then we look forward to bringing that vendor to you guys at a later date for approval.
Questions about where our benefits are or where we're trying to go?
Yeah, one quick question, which I know it may be too late since we just did that ask, but is it possible for multiple counties to get together and get a bid such that we would get lower costs if it's 6 counties together?
There are some consortiums. The only consortium I'm aware of is kind of what you're describing, is in the area of Pioneer RESA piloted one, and it's in the area of retirement benefits specifically. And I've worked within that consortium and outside of that consortium, and they contract with Corebridge, who is our current 403B provider. Our retirement benefits would be outside of this benefit brokerage package, but it is another thing that we are looking to examine. Our current products within our retirement planning, our voluntary retirement plan, our 403B process, it does use Corebridge, and we get some preferential pricing that is significantly greater than that consortium. It's largely used by smaller rural districts. I'm not aware of a consortium with other districts. It is something that we could certainly look into. In general, we're able to use the buying power of a broker and get better pricing. So that's some of what happens, where the broker will then bid out to underwriters. And if they have the buying power of us plus Fulton plus DeKalb, then Delta Dental and MetLife get a little more competitive with us. So we'll sort of look at what they're able to provide us. So we'll actually spend the next year, once we have the new provider, with our benefits committee looking at what those specific benefits are and how we can get the best price on the best services, including network and things like that for our staff. But I'll certainly look at what benefits there are, or if there's some wisdom to be gained there as we are going through this process. So thank you for asking.
I just didn't know if it's something that could be done.
No, it's a great question, and we'll dig in a little bit on that. Other questions?
On that same thing, I've been pushing the state for years to look, when they look at the state health benefit plan and all that, because Nashville, what they got for their employees up there, even for family coverage, was cheaper than what we have for individual coverage here in the state of Georgia.
Yes, and the state health benefit, we have no control over sort of how that plays out. It's just how we respond to it. Our system is set up slightly differently with retiree benefits, and I think that's where some of those costs come from for the district.
So we have to do the state health benefit? We can't get something on our own or look into it and see?
There are opportunities. I mean, districts can opt out in some instances, but you could never opt back in. So there are some sort of problematic pieces there we'd want to be really careful of. I think we'd be significantly less competitive in terms of trying to attract and retain the best teachers if we were to do that. I'm hopeful the state continues to work with the providers and maybe try to streamline some services offered. Healthcare costs are rising, and those insurance costs across the board, though, and we're certainly experiencing it here, and our employees are too. Other questions? Thank you so much. Thank you. Now we have a single action item. Mr. Jason Ayers is going to come talk to you a moment about our need for some additional special education buses.
Good evening, everybody. Got a few oldie goldies we need to retire. They've announced retirements very soon, so we need to get replacements in place for them. We put bus bids out on the procurement website and the district website in the summer of 2025 for the purchase of new buses. Rush Trucks are currently the lowest bidder with the quickest delivery date for available units. The purchase of new special needs buses will replace aging units currently in daily service. These older buses have reached the end of their reliable service life and incurring frequent high-cost repairs. Replacing them will allow the district to shift the retired units into spare status, strengthening our backup fleet and reducing dependence on older, unreliable spares. This investment will improve fleet reliability, enhance safety for our special needs students with the latest technologies, and reduce long-term maintenance costs while ensuring consistent, uninterrupted transportation services. So with that said, the superintendent recommends the purchase of 3 54-passenger special needs buses from Rush Trucks, a.k.a. International. Financial impact, price per bus, $149,000, times 3 buses, $447,000. So, good?
All right.
Hold up. Thank y'all.
Consent. Thank
Getting
you.
her to be-
All right. I believe we have an executive session tonight. All right, so we will, could I get a motion for executive session to discuss or deliberate upon the appointment, employment, compensation, hiring, disciplinary action or dismissal, or periodic evaluation or rating of a public officer or employee, or to interview applicants for the position of superintendent?
So moved.
Ms. Hendricks, second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Colin Hedges, and I'm a senior at Appalachia High School. I've lived in Winder, Bethlehem, all my life. I'm 18 years old, I have my mom and dad. I have 2 sisters. I've played baseball ever since I was 5 years old, played football a couple years. I went to Bethlehem Elementary, Heyman Morris, which is right up the hill, and then I've been at Appalachia all 4 years. You know, it was just a sport that I feel like everyone kind of jumps into at a young age. Played t-ball, and then eventually I got into travel ball, and then, you know, travel ball makes you want to play high school ball, and I played high school here at Appalachia all 4 years. Through baseball and the classroom, it helps me stay humble. Baseball kind of keeps me on task, pay attention. You have to get good grades in order to play baseball. And really, the number one thing is to just stay humble through it all. I have a couple teachers in mind. One is Coach Hooper. He teaches, well, he taught me U.S. history. He just taught me to, you know, stay chill through it all. He's respectful, he's kind, he's honest, and I really enjoyed his class. And another guy is our head coach, Coach Kyle Bailey, and he's another guy, he just gives it 100% effort in everything he does, and I really admire that. I have a few accomplishments. One, well, we made the Final Four in 2022, which was my sophomore year. I was first team all-region my junior year, so 2023. And then another one, I mean, not many people can say they're an honor grad. I'm an honor grad. I think I have a 3.9 GPA. I'm pretty proud of that. I'm planning on attending a tech school near here, so Gwinnett Tech, Athens Tech, maybe Lanier Tech. I plan on getting a construction management degree. I want to own my own remodeling business when I'm older. One piece of advice I'd give myself as a freshman is to just, you know, be chill. Be humble, be respectful to all teachers and all your peers, and to go into high school kind of patient. It's not what a lot of people make it sound like. It's actually just, again, pretty chill for the most part. Teachers are respectful to you if you're respectful to them, and yeah.
Ready for the first day of school? How about you? Please remember that we are all in this together, and it helps to bring your patience the first few weeks of school, especially in the car rider line. As our schools and staff and students are getting used to new traffic patterns and bus routes, and as we make the needed adjustments over the first few weeks to those bus routes, things may take a little longer. You can find all of our back to school information, or as we like to say, back to bold information on our website. We're wishing you a great first day and an amazing year of success in Barrow County Schools.
My name is Bree Ryle and I'm a senior at Winterboro High School. The short version of my childhood from where I am today is that I grew up playing sports all my life until about a year ago, and I played softball until I was about 13, and I quit and played volleyball up until now. And sports have just been a really big impact in my life. And I've grown up around my family with a tight, close family. And yeah. Volleyball has shaped my character in the classroom by helping me never give up on the work that I struggle to complete. And it has helped me be devoted in the classroom and just pay attention and be respectful. A teacher that has made a lasting impression on me would be my 1st and 5th grade teacher, Miss Hannah. She is just the strongest woman that I know, and she loves what she does, and I still keep in contact with her to this day. My accomplishment that I'm most proud of would probably be making it to the Final Four in volleyball last year and making school history. I also am really proud that I am able to graduate high school as an honor graduate, and I've been accepted into several colleges. I plan on going to the University of West Georgia and getting my bachelor's degree in business management. After graduating college, I plan to own my own boutique, just wherever the road takes me. The one piece of advice I would give myself as a freshman is to never take anything for granted, and time flies, so enjoy it while you can.
Tiffany, we are so excited to recognize you as our May Community Member of the Month. You are a true difference maker and have been since the early 2000s. And we have a small gift for you and just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored, and I love being around you guys, and I love you, and thank you so much for the honor.
You're amazing.
My name is Lee Bain. I'm the Barrow County School System Director of Innovative Learning as part of the Teaching and Learning Department.
My name's Tiffany Coles, and I am with UGA Extension 4-H Youth and Development as a 4-H educator here in Barrow County.
Tiffany embodies the 4-H pledge in her interactions with Barrow County System students, families, and employees. I can read that pledge to you, but I think it would mean more if Tiffany told you what that pledge was.
The 4-H pledge is I pledge my head to clearer thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to larger service, and my health to better living for my club, my community, my country, and my world.
And Tiffany truly does this for our Barrow County community in all that she does, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I have been part of the Barrow County school system since I moved here in 8th grade in 1996. In 97, I started in the 4-H program as a 4-H'er myself. So I know the importance of what 4-H is because it gave to me what I'm now trying to do and give back to the students here in Barrow County. One
of the ways that Tiffany and I, or 4-H and Barrow County School System, partner so well is through the Barrow Robotics Program, which started as a 4-H only program, small scale, following the true engineering design process. They had a team, a high school team, in 2011 with Jackson County 4-H, where Tiffany and the other AmeriCorps Vistas, I think it was at that time, were learning about how to run a robotics program.
I feel blessed every day to work in Barrow County and to work with these kids, and everything I do I see as an investment. I'm investing in the future of Barrow County when I am in the room with kids and I'm providing those programs and lessons in the classroom and after school. And Barrow Robotics is one of my favorite things that I get to do because I learn every day from the students. The kids that come into this maker space that we spend so much time with, they teach me something new every day.
After that successful year in partnership with Jackson County 4-H, Barrow County 4-H founded their own robotics program, and after a year or so, through some grant writing, was able to expand the program to elementary robotics through First Lego League, which is where Tiffany and I crossed paths and started working together. I started some lay coaching of some Lego robotics teams. Not coincidentally, I had my daughter who was on one of those teams, and over the years that developed and grew to middle school teams and to high school teams, and now we have 5 very successful vertically aligned teams.
I am grateful that Lee took the opportunity to recognize me. He does a great job at that. I think he's one of my best cheerleaders in the county. So I am very humbled that you would think of me and go out of your way to do that for me. So thank you so much, and I appreciate you and everything that you do for me.
It's a teamwork.
Yes.
Hey, my name is Ellen Petrie. I'm the School and Community Relations Specialist for the Barrow County School System. I had the pleasure of working with 31 churches, 4 civic clubs, and about 10 or 12 businesses for our backpack drive this year. We are just thrilled with the outpouring of love for our children and for the great school year they're going to have. We had a huge host of volunteers here, and everyone coming together in this community to help support our children.
We are having so much fun out here today giving away these backpacks, and honestly, we could not do any of this without our amazing volunteers. So we have almost 50 people here, kids, adults, senior adults, all helping us give these backpacks to our community, and so it is honestly the most incredible morning.
Yes, it's amazing, and one great thing is that we partner with all Barrow County schools.
Yes.
So it's been so cool for me to see so many families I know through Auburn Elementary, West Side, and every other school. It's just amazing, and we're having a great day.
Hi, I'm Faith Spalding. I'm a lieutenant with the Barrow County Sheriff's Office, and I'm here this year for the Back to School Bash. I've been doing it many years now. We have a large amount of volunteers from schools, communities, families. They all come together for one purpose, and that's to serve the students of Barrow County. And it's an awesome event. It takes a lot of work, a lot of time, but at the end it's worth it when we can put those book bags in the car and wish them a very good day and to have a happy and safe school year.
I love the opportunity to see families and be able to give to them resources, and the book bags make them smile, and so it's an opportunity as a social worker for me to actually do something for them, as opposed to sometimes when I meet with families it's not always a positive exchange. And so this is a positive exchange. It's a great way to start off the year on a fresh foot and an opportunity to just sort of give back to the community and to see them excited about a fresh new school year.
So the logistics for something like this is crazy. There's a lot of people, a lot of volunteers, and that's honestly the only way it works, is having people that are here to serve and to give in their time, their talent, and I mean, there's a ton of people here volunteering, and that's what it takes. It takes just a village to do this, to pull this off, and so we're so thankful for all our volunteers.
And we think we did over 200 bags.
Yes.
At least 200 bags that we were able to put together beyond that giant pile you've probably already seen. It was a great experience because I love seeing both people in wheelchairs and kids.
And small children,
Who
yes.
could absolutely help fill all those backpacks. And they felt like they were helping and they were a part of the solution, which is awesome.
And they're very fulfilling and very...
Reconvene. Could I have a motion to approve tonight's personnel report?
So moved.
Ms. Kelly, motion, second?
Second.
Ms. Maddox, all in favor? All right. We've got 2 public hearings coming up on the 20th and then December 2nd, and then our board meeting, and then we'll all head to Atlanta for school board conference. So with no other business, we will now adjourn.